Hey, this is Anney.
And Samantha.
And welcome to Stuff Mom Never Told You, a production of iHeartRadio. It is Thursday, which means it's time for another happy hour. And despite the title on this one, I think this one's going to be fun. Some commiserating.
Perfect. Despite the title.
Yes. I happen to like the title, but I also like a lot of sad things. So that's, whatever. What are you sipping on, Samantha?
You know what? I'm going to keep it simple and get one of my favorite white wines. Pretty much the only white wine that I'll ever drink is Vino Verde. Mm-hmm. And it's the Trader Joe version. Uh-huh. So even classier. Yeah, it's kind of got that, definitely a lot more tart than your typical white wines, as well as a lot more clean to me than, because I don't like a lot of like the smoky wood-ish taste that happens, that buttery. It's not that at all. But yeah, and it's super cheap. So cheers, and super cold because Atlanta is super hot.
Yes. Actually, I was going to get wine because I feel like this is a very wine. I know it's a cliche, but like to reminisce over past relationships over wine. But we've been recording for about 4 hours now, and we're in my closet, and it is so hot. So I switched up my drink, and I'm going to get some judgment for this one. But I love this. It is a little bit of vodka, pickle juice, sriracha, and sparkling water.
Yeah, I'm judging you.
I had to get really creative because I never have any mixers. And when this guy sent me a bunch of pickles, that's a story for a different day, but I had a lot of pickles. And I was like, what could I mix this with? And I was like, I have a bunch of pickle juice. So I started putting it in my drinks, and I find it very refreshing, but I know it's odd. It is something I loved as a kid. I loved to drink just pickle juice.
And a lot of people do. I love pickles, but I'm very picky about my pickles, and I'll only eat one brand because to me, the rest of them are too soggy and sad. So I'll only eat one brand, one type, and I have to stock up because apparently they run out of this one brand every time if you don't get it immediately. I even follow them on Twitter. Don't start with me.
You can't judge me for the eye pickle thing.
I said there's no shame. I won't drink that, but there's no shame.
It's very refreshing.
I'm good.
I almost lied about it. I was almost not going to say what it was.
Don't lie.
I have to be open and honest. That's what this episode is about. And as always, drink responsibly if you choose to do so. Yeah, we just want you all to hang out with us. And I think this is something that a lot of us can relate to, because what I wanted to talk about today is something I have been kind of mulling over, and I think a lot of people have throughout this quarantine. And in my case specifically, as I've learned more about myself and how I identify and more about mindfulness, things that I would have done differently or wish I had known when I was younger and in relationships. So I do want to say, I know a lot of people get a little angry about when women apologize, and especially in a case like this where it's like apologies to boyfriends past. It's not coming from the sense that I feel that I did anything wrong necessarily. I think I just wasn't in a good place, or like I was learning, or we were in different places at different times. So maybe I did do things wrong, but it's more of like almost an apology to myself, but also the person that I did care about, and in some cases still do care about, that I didn't have the tools or awareness then, and that I might have hurt that person. But it's coming much more from a place of like, I've healed and moved on, and just kind of like, hey, if it wasn't a weird thing to do, I would apologize to you for this thing.
That's nice.
Yeah, see, Samantha and I have very different breakup attitudes.
Yes.
Because I have seen most of the people I've broken up with, especially if we dated for a while, like after, and more than once after. This is not how you are, right, Samantha?
Oh, no. They must go into the abyss of boyfriend's past and never to be seen again. And I am okay with that. Yeah, I definitely have the whole different take on all of that. Typically because, I'm not great at relationships. So And I say that in every aspect of I don't understand completely how relationships are supposed to go.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's my ideas or my frame of reference are romance movies, really bad romance movies, or my parents who have been together from the beginning. Like it's just been that way. Or my people around me who've gotten divorces that does not look pretty, or stuck in really sad relationships. And of course, it's definitely those who are in wonderful, beautiful relationships. But also, I'm also one of those that has not a big tie. So meaning I don't date within typically my friend group.
Right.
This one time, absolutely not necessarily in a friend group, but they are in close quarters, so we would be in trouble. I typically don't date within working scenarios. So I can't, like, you are not a part of me. Like, nope, we good. We are separate here. So for me, a lot of that has happened. Didn't start having relationships till my late 20s either. So that's a whole different conversation as well. So I feel like the way I've set myself up has always been kind of that way. And it's not that I'm angry necessarily. It's there's this level of embarrassment of like, oh, these are the things that we did in our relationships. I can't see you in any other way than, oh my God, we did that. Let's move on. Even though there's nothing shameful, it just feels that way. So a lot of that, again, my whole aspect is like, I just want to forget. I mean, how do I forget you?
So you don't like ruminate on if I had done this or if I had done that?
Of course, I do. Like I am a very, very deep, I analyze everything to the core. But after that is done, and I will obsess for a little while. Like I will definitely do that and get into my feelings and be really hurt. And it'll be painful. Like it feels like a death to me, which is part of the problem, I think. And we're going to talk a little bit about my attachment issues, that if I let you in, it's really hard. And it's super painful to cut you out. And it feels like death because it feels like something has been pulled away from me.
Right.
And there's this moment of like taking my breath away because it just feels empty. So especially, again, if I've let you in to my life or into the level of being intimate in any way. So I may really be hurt and in pain for a good, like, maybe even like 2 months. Like, you know, and it doesn't matter. Sex and the City has an episode where it gives you a calculation of how long you have, like half the time that you've been together. To really be hurt. So if you've been together with someone for 6 months, you have 3 months to get over it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I don't think those calculations are correct, but somewhere around like that. But it may take me a while. But once it's over, and I want you to be gone.
Okay.
Forever.
Yeah. And that's been very interesting, I think, when we've had conversations about this, because we do have such different approaches where I'll be telling you about like, oh, I'm going to go see my ex-boyfriend for this. And you're like, why?
Yeah, it is. I'm very shocked. Well, and to be fair, half the time between you and everybody else who do see their exes is typically because they're still using you for something.
That's, yeah. Well, and to be fair, I think this is natural. But when that happens, there is an element of what is this really about? Like you're trying to get to the underlying reason. And I do want to say, like, we're talking about boyfriends here, and I'm talking about boyfriends here. I have dated women, but I've never had quite as long-term of a relationship with a woman. And if I was apologies to girlfriends past, it would be I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea what I was doing, and I was waiting on the other person to show me.
Right.
Yes. And also very unsure, which I've really appreciated. A lot of listeners have written in about this, of being in college when this was happening and doubting like, oh, am I just college experimenting? And then feeling really terrible that I might be doing that to somebody. It didn't turn out to be the case, but I got it in my head about that, of like, am I just doing this because it's cool or something, which is really unfortunate. And I did have some really sweet relationships that meant a lot to me. And that's something, when I look back on most of my relationships, not all of them, I don't think that they were a waste of time, because I did learn something about myself and what I want in a lot of them. And in a lot of them, I had like some beautiful times and memories that we made. But yeah, there are things that I catch myself wishing I could apologize for. And it is not that the other person is blameless, but yeah, just sort of an acknowledgement of like, I didn't know how to deal with this at this time, and I might have hurt you because of it, and I'm sorry.
Right.
So one of the big ones is communication. And it's so funny because we say that all the time, and I feel like we all know it, but we all make this mistake. And I didn't know what I wanted, and I didn't know how to speak up for it. So I just would kind of like almost like a kind of a flight or fright, like freeze sensation. But I would make it appear as though, I'll just do whatever they want and make it look like I want that thing too.
Right.
Because I didn't know. But that in turn led to a building up of issues and of almost resentment. I don't think I ever really reached that. But where we didn't want the same things, but we weren't communicating about it, and we were misunderstanding each other's like needs around it. And also, I'm just I'm not good in relationships either, I guess. Or I am someone who's very open, and I will say things that perhaps you wouldn't say. So I remember one memory that it makes me feel really bad. But I was talking about somebody I had a crush on to my boyfriend. But it was just like, I get crushes and they're like this and then they move on. And it wasn't a thing to make him jealous. It wasn't but I get that that's what normally in relationships it would be. And I feel terribly about it. I didn't mean it that way, but I'm sure that it hurt. And it's just, I think a part of that is being asexual, where I know nothing's going to come of this thing. And it's just sort of like, oh, he loves D&D and I love D&D and right now it's great. And then I'll never see him again and it'll suck, but that's just how it is.
Right. I think, and one of the big things that we don't talk about enough in general, when we talk about communications, so we definitely need to do that. But part of the thing with communication is being able to trust that you can say it. Yeah. And that's a big proponent that we don't put a lot of stock in. Just because we say it doesn't mean it's going to be received well. And if we're watching to see how it's received, that's part of trust. And I think even though, yes, we can simply say, communicate, this will make things better. That's not necessarily true. And a lot of that is guarding, which is why you saying, you communicated, you thought so-and-so was fun. Right. And that was a small crush. That was a huge mistake. And that kind of leads to that conversation is, okay, do I trust you enough? And do you know me well enough that when I say this, you know what is being said? And of course, the communication part is being able to come back and be like, okay, let's talk about this. I was bothered. Can we sort through it? And that's the big difference is like, yes, the simple term is be honest, be open, but not too honest, too open. Engage what is being said and what is being heard. And that's part of the problem. I'm in my head all of the time thinking, if I say this is going to be a problem. Right. And to the point that I won't say it because I don't want to be a problem. Right. And that has everything to do with trust. And that's a whole different level. And it kind of is just a cyclical thing of if one is without the other, you're not going to receive either. So it's kind of that balance of understanding that. And with that communication, being on the same page, and that's hard. That's hard.
Yeah. No, that's an excellent point because I think one of the biggest things when I look back of this relationship in particular, I was like, even if I wanted to trust, and I think that it was a pretty safe space because of all this other stuff I'd gone through, I didn't completely trust. And I was too scared to even admit to myself that. And so I definitely didn't admit it because it was kind of like a charade that I was fine. It's okay. But it wasn't fine and it wasn't okay. So I think in this, like when I told him about the crush, even though I didn't mean it to be, I do think there was a part of me being like, let's just end this. Like, let's, or planning some kind of like, because at that point, it had been many years and it was kind of clear that something was amiss.
Right.
And that's another thing when I look back, and Samantha, you and I have talked about this before, of I am happy being single and I am a very active person. So a lot of times I would do what I wanted to do over, like, I was kind of selfish. I would support you. I was happy to support people. But if it, like, push came to shove and I really didn't want to do the thing that you wanted to do, I would do the thing that I wanted to do. And it wasn't meant to be a power play, but I could absolutely see how it could be. And
Right.
that again is just, I don't think I communicated well around. I was happy with the relationship where it was, in terms of I have like a really great friend and we do stuff together and we were really close. But
Right.
the other person wasn't happy, like wanted more. And so, yeah, I think even if I didn't realize it, it was kind of like, well, I'm going to do my thing and it'll be fine. Which isn't great.
Right. And I think that's one of the other parts in any relationship, is having things in common. Commonalities are important. So if you can't do it together, then you have that understanding of, oh, we're going to do our own thing, and that's cool too.
Right.
So it's either or. Like it definitely is that level. You need to have an understanding or do the same things. And I think, I don't necessarily, yes, it is selfish, especially if you don't do it in a level of being open and honest and communicative about what's happening. For sure, I think. And again, not great relationships. Still learning a lot about myself, but understanding myself and knowing that, yeah, I'm the same way. Like I'm going to either do it or not, and you can join or not.
Yeah.
But I'm going to give you that same space and freedom. And as long as we're not having hurt feelings,
right.
Great.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to, as a nanny, when I was a nanny, I was a nanny for a singer. He was a popular singer, and the wife stayed at home with the kids and just did her own thing. And they were able to afford nannies and all of that.
Right.
So he would be gone for weeks at a time, and it was beautiful. She talked about how amazing the relationship was because she had her time, hang out with her friends, do her thing. He came home, and she dedicated those 2 weeks that she saw him per month to him only and whatever he wanted to do. But then when he left, she did her thing. And I was like, that's like a really great setup. Maybe I want that.
Right.
And it can work as long as you understand that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think that was part of my problem, is I was also too in my head about, this is what a relationship looks like. This is what I've seen. And this is what I've been told. And I was trying to fit into that. But also at the same time, I was really fighting it. Even if I didn't recognize it, I was like resisting it as hard as I could. And we were in different spaces at different times in all these relationships. And I didn't understand myself very well. And I think that is pretty key if you want a healthy relationship.
Right.
And I still catch myself getting FOMO of, what if I had been in a different place? Or what if I had not been in such, I was great at avoidance. I still am. Great at avoidance, great at denial. What if I hadn't done that and had gone into therapy earlier? Or all these different things. Could I have been happy in this life? And I don't think I made an incorrect decision. Like I said, I don't think I wasted time. I learned a lot. I hope they don't feel like they wasted time, but whatever, it doesn't matter. But at the same time, it's hard not to think about those things.
Right. I mean, I think I have one of those. I only have really one of those, and the what ifs. Turns out it's all in well, great, everything's fine. But there is I could have done this better. I wonder what would have happened if I would have opened myself up a little more out of my own fears. But again, where I am today is where I should be. I do feel that.
Yeah. And it is funny to me how you can feel such pressure from society and be so close to somebody. And I don't know. I guess I wonder sometimes about the other side of the story that they are telling their friends.
Yes, I think about that too.
Yes.
How do they portray me?
Exactly. And then on the other hand, I have been talking about this with some friends that I hadn't previously talked about it before, and they've been telling me some things where I'm like, "Wow, I did not realize you felt this way about that person." But okay, which is equally interesting. But yeah. I just wanted to take this space. Apologies to boyfriends past.
I don't apologize.
Samantha firmly does not apologize. But also, yeah, recognizing, giving my own self space to grow and make mistakes. Relationships aren't easy, and learning about yourself isn't easy. So here we are. We're just doing the best we can.
Yes, we are. Cheers to that, to the best we can.
To the best we can. Cheers, Samantha. And cheers to you, listeners. We would love to hear any of your thoughts about this. You can email us at stuffmediamomstuff@iheartmedia.com. You can find us on Twitter at momstuffpodcast or on Instagram at Stuff Mom Never Told You. Thanks as always to our super producer, Christina.
Thank you.
And thanks to you for listening. Stuff Mom Never Told You is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you listen to your favorite shows.